Hey YouTube, and thanks for watching Junk Works Garage. So I've noticed myself saying during this video, talking about how I'm just trying to get this thing going, and this might not be the way you want to do it for yourself as far as fixing it. You should go out and buy all new parts and spend a bunch of money, or buy a new machine. I am not in the place where I can do either of those things right now, so I'm buying the parts that I know I need to have and making do with parts that I can kind of refurbish and repair, hopefully, but it's not probably going to last for super long. I'm hoping I can get a couple more years and we can save up for a new one in the end. Also, if you do anything I do, I am not responsible. If you don't like the way I'm doing something, don't do it. So, on that point, I can cut a bunch of that stuff out of this video. Hopefully you enjoy it. Well, here goes more of my love-hate relationship with these machines. Unfortunately, I've been noticing the bearing going out in this. It's been getting very, very loud, like super loud, and I should have paid attention to it, but my body is shot, and my back and my leg and my everything, and it's it's January, so everything hurts. So I've been ignoring it, and yesterday it went boom, 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 leaked some water all over the place, as these things tend to do, and said I'm not doing it no more. So I'm going to have to dig into the back of this machine, and that's where we're going next. I got it spun around so we can look at this better. Second of all, I've unplugged it, I've unhooked it from the water. We're not hooked to anything. Still be careful. There could be capacitors and things that are in here that can hold residual power, so be careful where you're putting your fingers regardless of what you're doing. And we're going to just go ahead and pull off this right here. Also, I see this right here, which honestly, the last time I worked on this kind of alerted me that this thing was moving around too much. Somebody told me there's a way to lift this and take this off without bending it. He is correct. I have actually in the past kind of bent this so I could get this out of here. Just lift it and pull it out. So thank you to the guy that commented that in one of my videos. Right there, this piston right here holds that up, and I don't think it's holding it up. We're gonna see. I'm gonna have her turn it on and we'll find out what happens, what it's doing, hopefully. I still question whether I need to replace one of those, because that seems like it's tilting really far back. Threw some weight inside there, some clothes, just to see if some weight throws anything off. Come on, kitty. Well, hopefully you saw what I saw there, and it's shaking like no tomorrow. So I think there's a couple problems going on. I think those shock things that I showed you now, I do think that they're just not keeping it from going where it's not supposed to go. I think that's one problem, but I also believe that the bearing, just because of the noise it's making, there's a bearing going bad in here, and if I can get to that and replace it, I want to do that as well. Right now, my first process is going to be to tear this machine apart. Now, I'm going to build a playlist for this machine, because I have a lot of videos on this now. So go check out that playlist, and there's several videos that is on this that you can watch and get very good information no matter which machine you have, I believe. Even though this one's a little different, it's not enough different that it makes a big difference. Mainly on cleaning out the vent system. I've got a better vent system cleaning now that I've figured out, and I'll have some questions and answers of how this thing works. We're going to put you on fast forward or whatever they call that, where I'm just going to kind of start pulling screws out of this machine and tearing it apart. The whole thing has to come apart. So here we go. Right there is why you open these things up and clean them out once in a while. That appears to be dog hair, probably, I don't know, but it definitely started on fire in that heater element. You can see where that right there was on fire for a while and stuck. So pull these things apart, people. Definitely Loctite on those. Okay. It looked like I should be able to lift it up, but it didn't want to come up. But then one little boop and it just hit right. Alright. Oh. I see something I kind of forgot about. I've been fighting this, remembering the guy told me something. Forgetting there's a spring right there that I'm sure the guy probably told me about. Pull that spring out of there. There we go. That's why I was fighting it so much. Luckily I didn't. I don't think I hurt anything, and yet again I have another one of these if I need it. Wow, look at that. Amazing when you do things the correct way instead of fighting them. There's not a lot of videos on these out here, so I'll probably put this on its own video. So now we've somewhat separated this from this. I'm going to try and get the front end here off now. It's the latch for the door. I'm going to put the screws back in the latch back here because they're definitely different than anything else so far I've pulled out. There's a few different ones, but it's kind of easy to tell which ones go where, but these are definitely their own thing. I think there's a few stainless ones. There was one that held the heater element in, and that one was also stainless, and it looked like its own thing. The next thing we're going to do, we took out the screws from in here. There's a couple screws up in here, so not sure. You push down on this piece here, hopefully you can see that, and that pulls this out. And there's just a couple screws on either side that hold this on, back in the back of it. Back. There's just the one screw right here, maybe. Yep, that just pops forward, and we're gonna unplug it from some wires back in here. There's 3 plugs that unplug that. Under the bin here, the drum I should say, there are those right there, the shocks. They are actually called shock absorbers when you look up the parts for them. And I ordered some, honestly. I bought the cheap ones on Amazon, and I think I might be regretting it. We're going to yank these out and see if the ones that I got on Amazon feel any different than these ones here. If not, we're going to send them back and go with the next cheapest ones, because the next cheapest ones, although didn't have as many reviews, look more like this. Hello, kitty. You shouldn't get in there. I'm replacing those, and I'm going to go ahead and do the bearing. Not sure if these are going to be separate videos or the same video. Probably end up being separate videos. But I'm going to start working on taking the drum out, and the first thing I'm going to do there is pull off these screws right here to pull off top and bottom the weights here. We'll get these weights out of the way. I'm not sure what size those are. I will write it in the screen if I can remember. It's 10 millimeter. There's just little nubs that this holds on top of. Black one on the bottom, red one on the top. And I should have taken the top off first. That's alright. Oh, alright. I'm actually going to try and just get this out of here without taking... There is another spring holding this in, which it appears that that's all that needs. Wow, yeah, holy cow. You can see that. I'm glad I'm doing this bearing. It is more than needing done. And as soon as I would have done that, I would have done this anyway. So I'm very happy we've gone as far as we have so far. Now this one over here has a number 2 Phillips for some reason on it. I'm sure there's some engineer somewhere that says that should be right there. For all intents and purposes, this is a number 2 Phillips head. This just doesn't work very well. When I put that back in, I will be getting the right one. Alright, let's see here. We definitely got to pull this out through the bottom here as well. That one is handy little tool. Get yourself one. Harbor Freight cheapie. Still tiny pry bar. There's another screwdriver. I have that for you. Oh, you know what? The hose hooked to this right here. I'm going to go ahead and take that off, get it out of the way. Don't squeeze too tight, but twist and pull. Alright, so now there's also the wires that are hooked to this. So we're going to unplug it up here, and then there's going to be a wire tie you're going to have to remove as well. A little pink jobber here. And that'll bring that out with this. And again, I'm trying not to take this spring off of here. It looks like a real bear to get it back on. I'll get this back up in here where it was. Out of my way. There's several other hoses, at least a couple, if not 3. Yep, 3 more, so 4 altogether hoses hooked to this. I'm not seeing any other wires anywhere, so we'll get the 3 other hoses, 1 on either side and 1 on the bottom. This plug right here, and this hose comes up right here, and that gets that out of the way. So now I should be able to pull this out of here pretty easily. There's a screw down here that I need to unscrew. Phillips screw up under here holding this one on, and I will say it is plumb clogged full of junk here. So I will be pulling this off and blowing some air through it, which might help some. Alright, now crud. This one I'm not going to be able to get with this regular screwdriver. I'm going to need a stubby of some sort. Hopefully this big version of my thing here works. I think I'm to a point where I'm going to pull the shock off this side. I have an idea. I don't know if it's going to actually work out, but I don't see why the whole drum needs pulled out of here yet. So there's a drum right there. Next part is down underneath here. We got the shocks out. I think I'm going to have that in a different video. Not positive, but good chances that this is going to go longer than I want it to. And pulling those shocks out and replacing them is probably something a lot of people might need to do without doing the rest of this. So we're going to move on here. If you need to know how to do the shocks, go check out the playlist for this LG washer dryer ventless system or unit, and it will be in that playlist on my channel. The next thing we got is down underneath here. We got a bunch of plugs which we need to unplug. We got the yellow one to the right, the red one to the left, blue white one in the middle, and the green ground going to the lug here, which we'll have to get something to undo that, but the rest of it, I believe anyway, unplugs. Appears to be a 10 millimeter. Definitely make sure you've unplugged your machine before you start messing with this stuff. Should have already done that. Alright, I'm gonna stick that back on there. We have this here, I believe it's a 17 millimeter. That seems to be the consensus on this one here. We got a 2x4, I got it just propped up back in here, and that just is kind of holding the back of this up a little better. I didn't unhook this shock yet. I don't know as I'm going to quite yet. I don't know if that should have been quite so tight, but it was pretty tight in there. Definitely got some thread locker. Want to put some thread locker back on this before you put it back in. And in theory, this whole thing should kind of wiggle off of here. It's got, you're kind of fighting against some magnets, so it might be a little difficult, but it should wiggle off. Tell you, if you don't have a little pry bar, go grab one. They make life nice. And there's one of the bearings we want to get out right there. And then there's another one on the inside. Now, you also notice a lot of people take this off right here. I think I'm going to forgo that for right now. Yet again, I have a plan. Boy, look at this, where it's just road on here. I definitely want to clean that up and even clean the windings up here a little bit. I got some electronics cleaner that's good for that kind of stuff and shouldn't hurt anything in here that I will probably use. So this right here is kind of in my way right now, so I want to get it out of the way if I can. And once I unscrewed the front right here, that front panel was right here. It appears like this is just kind of moving around in here, so push it back, yep, push it straight back, and then there's a couple little things right here that sits inside of, and then I'm just setting that, I just folded it back and it just is sitting right here right now. Hopefully it'll stay there. Seems to be staying just fine. So that should give me easy access to all these bolts here. And I'm going to try and pull this front piece off without pulling the back piece off. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people saying don't do it that way. There's going to be a reason why. But right now I don't know what that reason would be. And I'm going to try and pull as few things off of this as I can. I've already got most of the machine pulled apart anyways. Not to mention saving my back from having to pull this whole drum and everything out of here all in one. And it's a 10 millimeter all the way around. I'm hopefully going to be able to get to most of them with this. We'll see. If not, we'll go a different route. There might be a sequencing to doing this. And when I put it back together, I'll definitely do that. But for right now, I'm just going to go around and loosen them up. I might want to go in a star pattern. You'll have to figure that out for yourself. So there's like a little sticker on this on both sides where the spring kind of is, below the spring. Just pulling those off because it's something that's going to try and hold those together right in that spot. Well, they might be necessary for if this is hitting the side, but if this is hitting the side where it needs that, you did something wrong. But I might actually put something like this back in. In fact, I'm going to put this in my little thing so I remember it. Just a little piece of cushion, and I think it's just to keep it from hitting the side over here if something wobbles a little bit more than it should. This spring is hooked backwards going that way through the bucket, so I'm definitely gonna have to pull that one out. This one on this side is actually hooked under this way, so I think I can leave that one. So I'm just gonna try and kind of pull this one off right here. It's probably going to allow some stuff to fall. And these just have, I don't know, hopefully you can see this. Yeah. They have a clip right here. I don't know exactly. I think they just kind of pop out. Yeah, it's not real hard, which allows this to be pulled up and removed. Yet again, I'm going to go get something to put underneath this just to kind of hold this where it is if I can, and remove that. We'll see. It might be more work trying not to pull all the stuff off than it is just to do it the other way, but we'll see. Well, that couldn't have worked out more perfect. Found a bunch of styrofoam packing material. I still have the 2x4 back in that back corner there, and I still have the shock absorber on the very back of the drum here. And doing that, this spring right here just popped off. I did not remove that. Yeah, I lifted it up enough, I guess, with that 2x4 that it just lifted it up and popped it off somehow. So pure luck is all that was, although it could have been bad if that would have popped off and everything would have come crashing down on top of me too. Spring is out. I'm just going to leave that one in for now and work on splitting. Yep, there we go. Alright, well, so far so good. I'm going to have to unhook the spring over here as well. Need to pull that out and clean it out once in a while too, because I believe that is some sort of a heating element. So I was able to leave that on there for now anyway. Be careful with that. I'm assuming heating element of some sort in there. We'll clean that up even better. Set that aside, and we'll see if we can just pull this out. I doubt it. You might be able to. Sometimes these come out, sometimes they don't seem to want to come out. This one is definitely in the not wanting to come out range. So we're on the other side here. This right here, there's a shaft in the middle here we're trying to knock out of the bearings here, which is attached to that bent or the barrel. Be real careful about, we don't want to be messing with this stuff. If I feel like I'm getting too close to messing with this stuff, I'm gonna stop and get rid of it. For right now, we're gonna try this out. I just have a block of wood here and a hammer. We're gonna knock against that and hope for the best and see what happens here. In fact, that nope. If you first don't succeed, get a bigger hammer. I'm going to try just walloping that first. Here we go. That didn't work. I was going to take that and use that one on there, but it worked. So we're good to go. In theory, holy cow. Well, we got that out, and in case I was wondering if I needed to change a bearing out, right there we got, there's chunks of everything, broken chunks of actual bearing pieces and everything like that. I won't have to pull this bearing out, but the problem is it's harder to get just a race out a lot of times than a full bearing, but we'll get her done. Closet. I believe it's a cast aluminum piece. You'd have to look it up. Either way, in a lot of these they are definitely more of a lighter aluminum and they break. So this is an expensive piece. I'm glad mine is not broke. The hard part is cleaning this off, getting this off of here because it's so rusted. Might be darn near impossible. So hopefully I'm not going to be replacing it because I destroyed it trying to get this off. A 3-jaw puller is what this would be called. I have a 2-jaw that I think would work better, but I couldn't quite get it to fit in here very well. And that's because of the seal right here. And the 3-jaw is too thick to fit in between the seal and this as well. So one of two things is probably going to happen. More than likely I'm going to pull on this and it's going to hopefully rip this seal apart, or at least destroy it enough to where I can get it out of my way. Best case scenario, the seal and all will come and pull this all up here. You got to be careful what you're doing when it comes to these kind of things, because you can mess up your threads on the inside here. The way this is tapered, it doesn't appear like it's going to have any problem, but we're going to slowly pull on this and hope for the best. Just lost a bolt off of this. But it is coming, surprisingly. These are all loose. This was my grandfather's. I've only used it a couple of times since I got it. Make sure we're not actually hitting the threads there. Quite honestly, I have things I can fix threads with, but if you don't, you want to make sure you're being very careful with this. It's going right in, no problems. Get some goobers on here from in there. I'm doing this real slow with this. You should probably do it by hand, but I don't want to. And there she blows. So that's the inner race right there. That shouldn't be by itself. This is the seal that needs replaced. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I definitely need to clean that barrel drum up a bunch. I have a feeling I am going to probably end up pulling this drum out. It is a mess. It is an absolute disaster in here. So I think I am going to pull it out so I can clean it easier. I don't want to be in there trying to clean it. First thing I'm going to do is grab this off of here. This is attached to this thing here that was just in this area that I pulled out earlier. And I'm just going to loosen this up. Just loosen it up plenty. Make it easy. And that pulls right off of there. Now this has a bunch of hoses hooked to the other end of it here. Some sort of fluid or vacuum hoses of some sort all hooked to that. So I'm just going to set it right up there on the corner. And then right behind that, back here, there's a hose that needs to be popped off of here. We'll set that there and hopefully remember to put it back on. Don't see any other hoses there. We got this one here which has popped off. Ah, I found out where that goes. There's a white exit where this hose goes onto, and it has since popped off. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off right here. Same thing. Loosen it up here, and then I would probably go ahead and take this hose clamp off so you could look in here and clean this out, but we're going to go ahead and take that off of there. Now I've seen in something, there's like a little ball thing in here, little cap. Be careful that doesn't fall out. I saw one fall out in a video, but that seems to be attached, so I don't know if it's supposed to fall out, but be careful with it either way. Well, these are 10 millimeter here. These are tight 10 millimeter. I may have to go get a better set of sockets for that one. Could be my battery's dying too. I am loosening these like I would like a wheel or anything that is obviously torqued down to a specific amount, which I'll probably look and find out what this torque spec is on this if I can find something as well. And I'm doing it kind of in a crisscross pattern because I'm sure that's the way they tightened it down as well. So that one. A lot of people don't know when you torque things down in a specific direction, you should probably loosen them in that same but opposite direction. Make sure this doesn't fall, because this is going to be really expensive if you have to replace it. Guaranteed. Alright, I just realized also there's a plug in over here. These wires here go up to that, and there's a screw straight back here that's hooked to this wire I need to get out. So I just don't have light or room for a camera for every little thing to be seen, so unfortunately I'm not going to show that to you. You should be able to trace wires and find out where they're hooked in. Just don't yank on wires. That's the main story of that. Be careful. Alright, so see there's like a little thingamajigger there that holds the wires and it screws in. This one's not as tight, so I'm going to take that screw and put it with the rest of these parts over here. Back to this wire here. There's a tie wrap type thing on here. Probably should try and get this stuff back where it was, because they obviously want it to be made sure to be waterproof there. So I'm going to tie wrap this for now. And it's got a ground right there. We got to disconnect. There's a bunch more holding this thing in here. So there's 1, 2, 3. so far I can find 3 more screws up on the back of the bin. When I get this bin out, I'll show you these a little closer if I remember, hopefully, but right now, I'm just pulling it out. And I think this thing is ready to come off. We shall see. Yet again, don't yank or pull on anything. And if it comes off, it comes off. It comes off. So there it is. This is probably the most expensive part you can buy on this machine. I could be wrong, but I would wager that one. And it looks like I could have maybe come back here and popped this loose. Oop. We're gonna pop this off right here. First of all,
this is the one that is the one we're dealing with here.
Under here we got a couple of things here. I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this all out. There's the back of the, I keep calling it a drum, but it's not really a drum. It's the outer part that the drum goes inside. But anyway, right there is where I was talking about it being broken. It's broke down into here. So I have an idea for that. I do think I'm going to try and fix it. It's not something that has parts that go into it, I do not believe. Yeah, this is the top. I don't know what that hit to break it, so I'm going to take a good look inside there and make sure. So, for all intents and purposes, we got the whole thing out. Now, could we have just unhooked the 2 or 3 things and brought the whole thing out? Yes. But quite honestly, just that part alone and the tub alone and the front piece isn't that heavy. I don't know why it doesn't seem as heavy as but the back piece is pretty heavy. It's got a lot more built into it, I think, structure wise. And the drum's fairly heavy because it's stainless steel, and stainless steel is heavy. But I do think, you know, if you're like me, you got some bad back problems and things like that, that was a pretty easy way of getting it all out of there without having to wrestle with it. To each their own on that one. I'm going to fix some of the plastic, do some plastic welding on this basically. So that's probably going to be in a different video as well. Yet again, I will have a playlist for this particular LG washer dryer combo ventless machine. So I have some Super Clean in one of these things here mixed with some water. Fairly light mixture. Gotta be careful with the Super Clean stuff. It can definitely damage some stuff. But yeah, I would probably use dish soap and water if you don't have something a little bit more. Because I tell you, this stuff is some of the stickiest. I don't know what it is that they put in these bearings. I'm hoping that dish soap and this will take care of it. Coming, but it's coming slowly. It does appear to be like in a metal sleeve around here, so I have no idea if this is compatible with this plastic, to be honest, so use this under your own caution. But this stuff seems to break a lot of things away and make them a little bit more slippery when doing this. I was trying to not put anything chemical wise on here, but it is what it is. I'm gonna throw some down in there for later. Tell you, great stuff. Not a sponsor. Wish they were. And there it is right there. Well, I checked on this bucket and two things came across my mind. One, machine's not worth enough to try and replace this thing. It's about 250, 300 bucks. Don't know what it'd be by the time I got it to my door. So I'm gonna make do with what I got here. I got this over the same 5-gallon bucket that I had it over when I was cleaning it out, just to give a place for this to drop to. I'm using an old, and yet again, if you do anything I do and you hurt yourself or your equipment, I am not responsible, but it's an old like crowbar. Got half of a crow's foot on there that broke, and the reason I'm using it is because on the other side especially, when I was trying to get in here, I was barely getting on the edge of this. So, and then this one, it's a little bit too thick of an end and rounded off, and we're kind of just hitting on the outside part here, which if I break that out, oh well, but I'd rather just get it out all together if I can. Anyway, and that kind of gives it a curve too, that I can have it a little bit more straight up when I'm hitting it. There she blows. Now I'm going to take a whole bunch of time with a screwdriver and probably some sandpaper, and I'm going to clean this in wax and grease remover. Holy Moses. We're on the back side here. This one came out fairly cleanly, but I will say there's still some definite things that I wouldn't want left in here that I believe were probably left in here from the factory. They might have done that to hold the bearing in a little bit, but there's definitely a few pieces where I can tell it's just where, especially down in the bottom down here, where the bearing pieces probably rode up in there and messed things up. So I am going to take some sandpaper here and a little bit of my soapy water, and I got a piece of 320. Yet again, you figure out what you want to use. This is probably a little rougher than I'd want to use normally, but it's what I have on hand, so it's what I'm using. And I'm just going to be fairly gentle with it so that I can smooth this out a little bit. I'm not going to worry about getting everything. This one is completely shot, obviously. This one was about 2 minutes behind that one. So I obviously bought some new bearings. I couldn't quite tell if they were going to fit. In fact, I bought bearings that wouldn't work first. So when I took these out, I made sure that I put them in a baggie and kind of put them down in there to test this. This one I could actually see pretty good, and I can tell it's working. I'm just trying to keep all the metal shavings, gunk, dirt, whatever off of that. So now I'm going to check the small one. The small one I had on the out, this is the outer one. I had more trouble, but I can already tell that's going to be perfect. So I got the right bearings. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll have a link below. They're cheap Chinese bearings, I'm assuming, off Amazon. They weren't the cheapest ones. These say China, but these have the same number on them. Anyhow, they fit. We're good. Put them in the bag to test them first before you get them too awful dirty from testing them. And don't throw these out yet, because we will probably clean these up as best I can, and we'll probably end up using these to press in the new ones. Alright, it is time now. My little Harbor Freight Dremel did a champ of a job kind of getting these as flat as I'm going to get them. It actually turned out a little better than I hoped. There's nothing really to catch anything, hopefully. The next product I bought for this is this right here. Yet again, I will have in the description below a way to order this on Amazon, a link. Is the word that I can't come up with. I will have that link down below in the description, along with everything else that I can find on Amazon that I bought for this project. This stuff is made for washing machines. Damping grease, low viscosity. I don't know if it's made for this particular thing, because these are sealed bearings, so you shouldn't need to grease them. But I figure a little bit in here to try and lube things up. You want to be careful with grease, because grease actually doesn't compress very well. So any kind of liquids don't compress very well, so you can actually make it harder for yourself by putting a bunch of grease in these things. Regardless, it came with a little applicator and a little brush thing here, so I will presume those are used for something else. And I'm going to throw my finger in here. Figure if it's good for my clothes and in the washing machine. Don't smell things, kids. It doesn't smell like anything at all. I'm going to take this and just kind of put a little bit of this in here and hope. It's kind of sticky feeling, so it might make it harder. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit around here as well. This is pretty darn sticky stuff, so I may end up washing all this off depending on how it goes. We'll throw a little bit of that in there as well. I went ahead and grabbed my smaller ball peen here. Just going to go ahead and give it a good wipe down before I use it. We're just going to kind of tap that on there. And then I'm going to throw this over the top of this and make sure I can see the outer part. And I'm going to stick that on there. Just kind of feel it and give it a good whack. And yet again, I'm trying not to get it too greasy or nasty or get any shards in there. I did kind of wipe this up, but as I smack on it, I can see more stuff kind of coming out of it, so really just don't want any metal shavings or anything in and up on here. I'm getting to a point where I need to be able to see it, so I've cleaned this off pretty well, so. And you'll feel when it doesn't want to go any further. You hear that solid wrap? That didn't want to go no further. Solid wrap, don't want to go no further. Solid wrap. Solid wrap. We're in there. I'm going to do one more. Yeah, we're good. That is in there. That is turning just fine. I'm happy with that install right there. Now here is the only thing I can think of right now where I may have screwed up is I got this seal right here, and I assume that one on the outside. This may go down underneath this. In that case, I may be hurting, but we're going to try and see if I need to bring it up in from the inside maybe. It came, several of these kits came with 2 and some came with 1. I kind of assumed I needed 2. So, a little bit of lube. I think that helped a little bit, or at least didn't hinder. Went and grabbed a little shorter handle. Now that's down in there, I can kind of use the edge of this to hold this around that good. Ow! Well, that was stupid. That just happened. On camera. Alright, let's see if we can avoid doing that again. We'll just stick with this side over here. We need to put this in here. Make sure it's get one last good clean on it, hopefully. And this actually has a little bit of lube on the inside. I'm hoping this doesn't have to be pressed onto that shaft in here. It shouldn't. It pulled out fairly easy, so we're hoping the shaft slides in fairly easily. But I am going to go ahead and yet again put just a little bit of this lube on here. It kind of has some lube on the inside already, it appears, of some sort, so I'm going to try to avoid touching that too much. And that should, in theory, just push down in there without a whole lot of effort. All right, I do believe we're all said and done with the bearings. Not too awful hard of a job. Now what I need to do is clean that up with a nice clean rag. And I'm going to tape this up. And the reason for that is what I should have done is done this part next. But I need to fix these cracks in here. There's a couple other cracks on here that I'm going to fix. So I'm going to go do that. You'll see me in a minute, hopefully putting all this junk back together. Actually, I do have one more thing that I need to do to the tub before I can put it back together, but I'm tired of messing with this. I want to go play with the new toy I have. So another thing I probably wouldn't recommend, I don't know, this is emery cloth. It's probably heavier than it should be, and I think it's like 50 grit, so, but it's what I could find. Yet again, I'm going to be careful. You need to do what you want to do. Not trying to take any metal off of this necessarily, unless there's a burr, which it doesn't feel too bad, but I can definitely feel kind of a spot around here that needs cleaned up, and it's been kind of burnt a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of take this and just lightly all the way around. Yet again, you need to decide what you want to do. I'm gonna call that good. I got this all lined up and in here. I stacked these up on the bottom down here so that I can start gently putting pieces back in here. I think I'm gonna start out at least trying to put it in a piece at a time like I pulled it out, just yet again to save my back. And you know, whether or not it's easier, I couldn't tell you, but we're gonna try it that way just to see. First thing I am gonna do is go ahead and take some of this damping grease here. I don't know, yet again, I think this is more for purely for the shocks, and that's why they call it damping grease, but it's low viscosity grease. Yet again, I don't know, so this may be a mistake, but there was definitely some stuff like this down like when I was cleaning the bearings out, so that's why I'm doing this. Whether or not it's a different kind of grease in there, I don't know, but we're gonna go with it. Alright, well, I tipped this over onto a laundry basket here so I can hopefully get the top of it on here and not end up smacking the shaft down underneath there. Now I got to clean this out. I got that cleaned out and got it on here. The only thing you got to think about is right in this area there is like that heater element thing that plugs in, and it's got to go through a little metal thing down here that you saw me put on. But after that, we're just going to go ahead. I'm going to throw all these in by hand, and we're going to whip these in here. Now, I kind of looked for torque specs. The only torque specs I could find was for the back bolt that hooks the tub in. So why that is, I don't know, but I couldn't find a whole lot. So this right here has a rubber gasket in between. So I'm going to be careful not to completely crush it down and hope I don't have any leaks. If I figure I have leaks from that area, if I find I'm having leaks from this area, then I should be able to get to most of these and tighten up. Yes, I'll have to pull the whole front end off to do it, but I'd rather do that than tighten it too much and wind up with leaks that I end up with a crushed gasket in the middle, and I'm pulling it back all apart again. So that's my plan. You're gonna have to figure that kind of stuff out for yourself. And I am gonna go kind of back and forth. And hope I don't overdo it. Yep, I'm gonna mark that one once. One there. I'm gonna do this one a little bit more because all these are kind of going down until they stop, kind of, but I'm not. Don't feel like I'm crushing it. They just kind of, they're going down until they don't want to easily go down. We'll put it that way. Got two more. I didn't pie that all that great, but better trying than not to do sometimes. Alright, so I'm going to, the bottom is probably the most important part, so I'm going to give that a bit of a turn and put an X on that, So I went one direction, now I'm going to go the other direction, and then I know I'm done with those ones. That one's done. Done. This one might be done anyway. A little bit more. Done. So I don't know if you saw that. That one turned a little bit with the same pressure that I'm putting. I'm only using my wrist pressure, so I got a pretty good, is it the same feel? Every guy thinks that, so whether I do, who knows, but I'm using the same pressure, I'm hoping, or as close as I can get to it, to make sure all these are the same. And so far they've all been right there except for two, so that's why I go around and check every one more time, because you never know when you pull down on one over here, it can loosen or tighten something else somewhere else. So that is how I get as close as I can with no information. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I tried wrestling this in once and it didn't go so well. I had this down on the bottom to kind of hold stuff up, kind of like I did when I was pulling stuff out, and it kind of just didn't give enough room to get it down in there with the full tub. So I'm going to try sitting in my chair and maneuvering it that way. I'll do this now. That went better than I hoped. It does not feel good, but it's heavier than it looks, I'll tell you. Stainless is kind of stupid heavy anyway, and there's a lot of beef built into these, so it's not as light as you'd think it would be. This whole machine is just ridiculously heavy. I'm going to try and lift this up with the springs now. Come on, son. Alright. You gotta see this one. I have no idea what you can and can't see, but I just got a pair of pliers. I'm using the lift on this and getting it in there. Putting that up in there. Now that can kind of balance in there until I get the shocks put on this thing. And I'm gonna put this on right here, the tube that goes to the pump down here. So we're going to go ahead and get that situated. Now this clamp right here, I actually made it so I can get to it from the front easier, because if you're taking this hose off, you're taking it off from the front. And before it was facing back, going back towards the back. So, and I don't see any reason why I can't do this. So that is what I'm going to do. Because I'm sure if I ever take this off, it'll be from right here. Alright, so I'm going to wait for the front here until we get this more locked down with the shocks. Well, I keep thinking I'm going to go back and throw these shocks on, but I found that there's not enough weight on this, so I need to actually put the weights on this to bring the tub down enough to put the shocks on. So I'm going to start with the easy one. It'll bring it down first, and that is the bottom one here. Kind of funny, this bottom one is plastic with like a concrete in it. And I will say this concrete is kind of started cracking, so hopefully we're okay. The top one looks to be a piece of cast steel. Alright, so we're gonna stick that on there. There we go. Find all the screws to go with it. Yet again, there's probably torque specs for this, but we got metal bolts or screws going into plastic, so we're going to be careful. These right here aren't actually holding this on. Surprisingly, there's not like a washer or something on these, but the only thing holding this on is like a wall anchor. When you shove the screw in there, it expands it and holds this on. So make sure that's on there the way you want it, and then just snug these up. And I wouldn't ramrod these things in with this either, because that'll melt the plastic and it can cause it to be loose. I'll be honest with you, I think I might have this on backwards. That worked much better. That's what happens when it takes 3 weeks of getting parts and pieces and all that kind of stuff. Now, what I didn't forget is that the screw, the number 2 Phillips head screw, goes over here on the far one on the right here. I went and actually got a number 2 Phillips. Something else we got to get on here is this little hose here. Alright. So we got this, we got the hose in the back, and we got that. That's about the only stuff that needs hooked up in the back, except for all this stuff right here. So that is what we're going to go to next. I'm going to show you the wires up close and a little bit better once I get this on, so you know what direction things are. Another thing about this with the wiring is either make sure you put the screws back in where they go, which I'm glad I did, but I realized that there's a ground screw right here that is shorter and has a flat tip on it, and there's a little metal insert where the ground needs to be put in the back of the tub here. And I'm just gonna loose, don't tighten everything down. So we got our ground down here that we've already hooked up, and then we got our plug here. We got this, and this. So there's another plastic piece here, which I'm going to put in. And make sure these are not the same either. So there's 3 different screws up in here. And this one, I honestly am not sure. I'm pretty sure the longer one goes through here, which I'll show you in a second. And again, don't tighten it all the way. So I have this in here loosely. I'm questioning whether this is going to fit. Oh, it will. So there we go. We start down here where we plug everything in. That goes up. Well, actually, you got your ground right there. Let's go into all those wires. And this goes up. I don't exactly know what the fuzzy thing's for. If that was, can't remember if that was stuffed somewhere, but we have that screw right there that has the holder that's going around the wire. And we travel up, we got the ground over here. Yet again, there is a metal sleeve inside that one, And then we got another one of those plastic clips that goes around the wire and holds that there. This goes up around, and then you got your metal clip here that it goes behind. The hole you see to the left is just there's a little plastic piece that sticks out, a little nub sticks out through there, and then you got your screw right there. All of these screws are loose, so we'll tighten them up when it's all said and done. That way it allows the wire to move around as much as I need it to, or as much as it can. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in first. It only plugs in one direction here, so, but you can't really see it very well. There we go. So that should put this right where it needs to be that way. Don't cross thread anything. If it's not going in by hand, you did something wrong. Stop, start over again. It's 10 millimeter yet again. I could not find any torque specs. Definitely do a crisscross pattern. Anything like this, you always want to go kind of a crisscross pattern. So. And then I'm doing it by hand. Now these do have a metal sleeve in here, but still you're with plastic, so be careful. Okay, those all feel about the same. They're tighter than I probably was comfortable doing, but they're still there. So now I clean this up best I could. This does have corresponding teeth that go into the drum here, which I'm hoping is not stripped at all. Watch your fingers. This has magnets. It'll grab hold and then want to get you. As far as I know, there is no specific way this goes on. Something I am going to do actually is pull this back off again real quick. I'm going to button up the wiring because I won't be able to get to the wiring very well back here once I get that on. See a red dot right here. So I'm going to put that up just because I see a red dot and it seems like a good place to start. Hoping that these threads didn't get boogered up on here. I don't see a keyway that says this would go any certain way. That's the thing. So that definitely wants to go on right there. There we go. Okay, that actually did clip in a little bit more there. Now for this had blue Loctite on it. I'm going to make sure this is going to go on here, which it will. I have this Permatex, it's orange, it's high strength but removable. It's what I have. I have that, or I have red. I don't have any blue right now that I could at least get to, and this stuff is dang high strength. I have tested it in the past. So I'm satisfied with it, but you should use whatever the manufacturer recommend. And I did find a thing on this, I believe 88 foot-pounds, but yet again, you need to do your own research when it comes to that as well. I'm probably going to go with very tight, because 88 foot-pounds is dang tight. Okay, this is going to be the hard part too, is doing this without breaking something. Yet again, we're kind of going into a piece of plastic, so be very careful if you decide to do something I'm doing right here. This has actually got a rubber piece on it going in there. It's hitting the plastic. We're also hitting up here at the same time, so alright, it is what it is now. I broke down on if I can actually make this work without hitting anything. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to see where we're at here. This may be harder said than done here. Oh, we're not even close. Alright, I hope the information I have is correct, because if it's not, I'm about to be really screwed. It says I need a bunch more on it. Honestly, this is a brand new torque wrench to me that I bought second hand, but it looks brand new in the box here. So I have no idea how close it is. This one of the I-beam ones there. Well, I cannot get good leverage on it the way I am right here, so this seems to be the way to go. Yeah, I don't know about this being 88 foot-pounds, because I'm hitting about 60 and that keeps turning at about that rate. I'm done with it. I ain't doing no more than that. So I'd say that is probably either a little loose or way too tight. One of the two. It's on there though. So as far as the back is concerned, we got this, which always seems like it's way tight. Although this is going to come up a little bit once I get the front ones on, hopefully. The shocks. I'm going to call that buttoned up. We got that all buttoned up. I believe the back end of this thing is pretty well buttoned up now. So we got a longer one and a shorter one. The shorter one, I figured out, goes on this side, the side over here. Now yet again, you got this screw right here that holds it to the side of the tub, so you're gonna have to get that in as well. Well, I did a makeshift screwdriver pulling this out of here. On the side of your machine is like a handhold that will pop out. If you pop that out, your screwdriver will fit right through and you can get that screw where it needs to go. Alright, that's better. Something I almost missed before I get these on too far here is the actual tube that drains out of the bottom here into the pump that pumps the water out of this thing, which would have been really, really bad to forget. make sure you get that on the back of the pump. I put this little piece back in here. It did fall out. I had trouble trying to get it out before because it's just kind of hard to get a hold of. Anyway, but it did pop out, so pay attention to that and make sure you get it in before this piece here goes on. So we are going to go ahead and try and get that on there somewhat here. And get this up here. And again, this just basically blows hot air. It appears it blows lint too, which I'm sure it's probably not supposed to do. Alright, so that is on that one. And then we'll just snug this up here. And don't forget to put these clips back on. I probably should have done this already. For the springs here that just kind of locks them in. We're going to go ahead and put the heater piece back in here and the vent fan and button up a bunch of this top end stuff that I just kind of fast forward through. Yet again, I have a video of this already on my channel, so I'm not going to put it in this video because this video is going to be at least an hour long anyway, and most people are probably not watching by now. So I'm not gonna lie, I completely lost where this went. I actually found it down on the bottom of the machine and kind of blamed it on somebody else, thought that they just left some extra parts in. I still think they left the clamp over here off and just stuffed that on there, but this I actually did figure out that it was my fault. I didn't realize that when unplugging these right here on the heater element that they weren't attached to anything else. I kind of assumed, I guess, that all these wires were attached together and this is all by itself. So if you go to pull this apart, don't forget that this actually it isn't held on by anything. In fact, I believe that's why they have this little doodad here to kind of hold the wire on, which I am gonna, for the life of me, really put that in there. And then I gotta remember which way is which. So we got the gray one that's gonna go on here, and the brown one, or yellow, kind of mustardy one, I guess you would say, goes on the bottom down here. Alright, so we're gonna hook these in. And then from here, I'm just gonna button up the front end of this thing, put the top back on, and we'll be done with this. So I don't think I need to show you every little screw going back in. It's the next day, and I got the tool overnighted here. And there it is. It's a giant snap ring plier is what it is. And that's what I would say it is. It's like they have snap ring pliers that they put a groove in on either side here, and it just pushes out on the spring. So could use a little bit of oil too, but we're gonna go ahead and use it the way it is. I'm gonna set this up here actually first. From what I can gather, we need to make sure that this is over this whole thing here, which is not wanting to stay up there. That's the problem. I mean, it's over the lip, but can usually figure things out pretty quickly. And this one was definitely stumbling me. This isn't helping a bit. And there are no videos of anybody doing this where it's difficult if they have the tool. So maybe it's me, maybe it's not. Could be something I've also heard that these, once they've been used, are difficult to reuse. Alright, that seems to be doing something. There's an actual, on the lip under here, there's this piece here that you put the spring in between. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Hopefully I can zoom in enough on it. But there's definitely a lip right here where the spring goes, and then kind of a flap that sticks up. And then under that there's another lip that will go down inside there. You just gotta kind of twist with your thumb and your finger. And then so far anyway, it seems to be doing it. So there's always a trick to something that nobody ever shows on video because it takes too long. And nobody will watch the videos if it takes too long. So, considering this part right here, yet again, cut the hole. I don't care if anybody thinks I'm a complete moron. I know better. Because this is a pain in the butt. Especially for the Now I'm having to actually physically like pull out on the lip just to get it to kind of go around this bottom part and pop up in here. This bottom part is definitely a little more difficult. And I have dogs, in case you didn't notice. Alright, there we go. And I'm actually going to take a little screwdriver and just kind of make sure we're seated in there good all the way around. Because this alright, that was definitely the trick. The little, just peel it back, and there's a lip there that there's a groove inside this that pops down in there. Oh, yet again, I'm not going to pull it apart to show you everything because I need to get this done and together. Now I should be able to, in theory, had I known that, I'll be honest, I might have tried to do it without the tool, but since I have the tool, we're going to use the tool. All right. Oh, thank goodness. All right. That appears to be correct, and that's in there and not coming out. That's how quick dog hair comes out. Couple screws put on the door, and this was done for all intents and purposes. All right. Well, it's spinning. I don't know if I like the sound of those bearings either, but they're definitely a lot better. And we have a pretty small load, so all the weight's kind of in one area right there. It's a bunch of rags because I didn't want to wash anything that I was worried about because there might be some residual junk in there, which I would highly recommend at the end. Go ahead and throw some rags or some old dirty work clothes or something like that in there that you don't care about at first, and get the machine all cleaned out. Let it clean itself out. It's definitely spinning. It's shaking, but the machine's not completely banging and rattling and going uncontrollable right now. And this is the first time. You and me are watching this the first time together. I also replaced the shocks, which seem to be doing their job as well. Ooh, it's going. Holy cow, that's scary. The first time, scary. Alright. Well, there's a couple more hours of this to go. But I think I'm pretty happy so far that everything seems to be working. It's going through a cycle. If I don't come back, then that means it was good. If I do come back, well, it'll be bad. And as always, get out there and get your junk working. Thanks for watching Junk Works Garage, where I'm proud to say I'm a jack of all and master of none. You all have a good one.